Auburn, American Association of University Women. This is one of our general meetings, and today we're going to have State Treasurer Fiona Ma. Couple of quick things. First of all, these little devices, put it on off or stun. Now, if you yelp during the meeting, we know you just got zapped and we're all laughing. But if you need to take a phone call, because sometimes watching for things happen, please exit out to take your call and head out that way. Next thing, AAUW, for those of you who are not familiar with what American Association of University Women is, it is a national organization that supports, see, somebody just emailed me. So, it's a national association that was started to help advance women in education. It started in 1881 and has blossomed from there. The Auburn branch started in 1949. And we've been dedicated to supporting women in education, and especially advancing in higher education, since that point of time. And every year, we have given out a scholarship, at least one scholarship, every year since we were founded. And this past year, we gave out about $30,000 in scholarships. Yeah. Programs like Speech Track and Tech Track. Tech Track is a STEM, which is your science, technology, engineering, math camp. Speech Track helps students, all students from grades 10 to 12, develop their leadership skills and their speaking skills. So we offer a lot of great things doing that. As we look through it, AAUW in Auburn has recognized that while we are dedicated to getting women into higher education, that ties together. So we've decided that we would open our branch. We now have ally membership, which means it doesn't matter if you have an AA, a BA, a master's, a PhD, anyone and everyone is welcome. So we are now an open branch to anyone who wishes to. So let's introduce State Treasurer Fiona Ma. She's the 34th State Treasurer, and she was elected first time in November of 2018. For you, re-elections. Yay. She's a certified public accountant, and this is what's interesting, the first woman certified public accountant to serve in that position. She's amazing, great skills. She's also the first woman of color, so thank you very much for opening Her office, if you don't know, is responsible for a huge amount of financing. So they provide financing for schools, roads, housing, recycling, waste management, hospitals, public facilities, and other crucial infrastructure projects. Her office, now this is going to blow your mind. Anybody want to guess how much she does for processing in terms of banking transactions? $3 trillion. You read it, but yes. She let the cat out of the bag. Yes, $3 trillion in transactions. Wow, that's a lot. She also is she oversees the investment portfolio, which currently averages about $200 billion. So that's some pretty significant responsibility. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to Treasurer Fiona Ma.
This podium's a little high. Can I take it off the?
Well, what can we do, sir?
No, not the podium, but can I take the mic off?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, I know that I'm being filmed, so normally I walk around. But I will try to stand right here, but I couldn't, I needed maybe, the barber box or a box. But it is great to see everyone. Thank you all for coming out. I've had a long history with AAUW, going back to 1995 when I first started working for Senator John Burton as a district representative. And we had a very active San Francisco chapter along the way, and so I've always been active. So I understand what you all care about, what you all are supporting, and it's everything that I kind of am too, since I am also a woman. I have 3 degrees. I have a bachelor's in accounting, a master's in taxation, and an MBA, and now 2 honorary doctorates, by the way. And And I was actually joking because my first bachelor RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, they gave me an honorary doctorate maybe 3 years ago. And I'm not about pomp and circumstance, so I never walked my graduation. I don't know, I just never did. And so my dad really wanted to go to this ceremony. So he flew over with me to Rochester RIT, and we did that ceremony. Then Golden Gate University wanted to give me an honorary doctorate, and that was easier because it was in San Francisco, and I think that was last year. And so I joked with Pepperdine, I go, you better hurry up. Because my dad really wants to see this, recognition, and unfortunately my father just passed away last week. But he made it to his 91st birthday. He was healthy, independent, drove every single day, and I was always worried he was gonna fall. Because we live in San Francisco on a hill. He still insisted on walking the dogs outside, even though I said, Dad, we got pee pads, let him, don't worry about it, but he would still go out. And then we had a lot of stairs in our house. And so I was always saying, Dad, let's move. Let's move to a smaller condo, let's move to, a one-story house. And, some of us are very stubborn, I'm sure, here in this room. They're like, no, this is my house, I want to stay in this house. Then I would say, Dad, can I hire someone just to come in, a couple days, because I'm working and traveling. No, I don't want strangers in the house. Okay, sound familiar? So I would have my friends come over and stay and say, Dad, they need to take care of the dogs while I'm here. And he's like, okay, if it's for me, he can have strangers in the house. If it was him, no way. Anyway, my dad, was pretty much, grew up in China, had to leave way back when, got, as a 9-year-old, the family moved him to Hong Kong, which he basically raised himself since then, and managed to get 3 scholarships for 3 different degrees. Yeah, so education has always been part of our family motto because it levels the playing field, right? We all know you cannot take someone's education away. So growing up, he gave us a lot of lessons learned, kind of raised me as the oldest son. I am the oldest child. Taught me, finances, how to balance the books. I had to pay the bills and file everything. Helped with tax time. He taught me how to invest and, sell covered calls and covered puts. So, education, especially for young women, is so important. Financial independence. And still to this day, when I talk to young women, I go, do not let any man control your finances. You need to have your own bank account. You need to have your own credit cards. If you're buying a house, your name has to be on, on the mortgage, all of this. And unfortunately, as we know, sometimes, we don't have these lessons learned. And it does impact us later on because, it affects us if we are not prepared and educated. So being a CPA, in this role as state treasurer, I do a lot of, financial literacy, talking about all of our free programs. For example, Scholarshare 529. How many of you have invested in a Scholarshare 529 account, right? If you invest $100 every month, that's like foregoing a latte at Starbucks. $100 a month for 18 years, that amount could accumulate to $65,000 that your child or grandchild doesn't have to pay high student loan debt. Because if they graduated with a lot of debt, they're never going to pay it off, and it's going to impact their credit, and they may not be able to buy a house, and then it may put them in a situation where they are dependent on other people, to acquire these assets. So Scholarshare 529. And then, because of these surpluses during COVID, the governor and legislature allocated $2 billion for free money, Cal Kids. So any 1st through 12th grade on free and reduced lunch, they are eligible for $500. If they're a foster youth, another $500, and if they're homeless, another $500. So that could be $1,500 free money. Do you know how hard it is to give away free money from the government? Okay, they all think that there's some, some hidden agenda, and these days, as we know what's happening, they're not really sure what this means, free. Does it come without any strings? But it is free, calkids.org. And then any newborn born after July 1st, 2022, regardless of income, is also eligible for a smaller amount, $175, but it's really to incentivize, our parents to think about putting money aside for their kids. So that's kind of the thinking. The other program we have is AAUW. It's a savings program for people with disabilities. So anyone who is diagnosed with a disability under 46 years old, starting January 1st of 2026, they can also save up to $18,000 in their own name. And for people, older folks like us, if we had kids with a disability, we could only save up to $2,000. Remember that rule? For their kids, otherwise they wouldn't have access to their other health and safety benefits. So now it is $18,000, which is creating a lot of safety and security and independence for people with disabilities. Number 3 is CalSavers. If you work and are not offered a retirement savings account, you must, if you have 1 or more employee, you must register under our CalSavers program. And again, it is a set it and forget it. You allocate a certain amount every paycheck, and that money grows. And it's surprising how sometimes we do, we go to a company and we say we want to, do a little press event, and people look at their CalSavers account and they're surprised. They forgot about it. They forgot that they've been putting this money because, no one sees a paycheck anymore, right? You just see the amount of money in your ATM, and then when it's done, you can't take any more money out of it. So I learned from my father that I need to squirrel money away, because if that money is available, I will spend it. So I set up, this account, that account, this account, and that really does work, because after 5-10 years, you forgot about, that money, and that money is all of a sudden sitting there. And then the last savings account we have are called HOPE accounts. These are going to start next year for any child who lost a parent or guardian due to COVID, or longtime foster youth, those that have been in the system for 18 months. They may be eligible, I think, for $3,000 in their child savings account. And again, it is really to encourage them to save for higher education or an apprenticeship program. And we're trying to also allow multiple uses, for this money, because some people, parents may say, I don't know if my kid wants to go to school. Why should I save for my child? Well, now those accounts can be used to pay for other siblings for their college or apprenticeship programs. And eventually, I would like to allow any excess savings to be used to buy a house. Because buying a house is the way we build equity in this country. Being a renter all your life, you'll never get out of, of that income strata unless you buy a house. And so my parents saved enough money for us for college. I used the extra money to buy my first house, a 2-unit building in San Francisco, and I've bought and sold many houses along the way, and I am fine. I am set for life, which allows me to do this. Because, as your state treasurer, I only get paid $180,000, okay? A lot of people get paid a lot more, right, in the private sector, but it's not about money for me because my parents, my dad, really set me up financially for success and financially independent and stability. So that's kind of what I preach to, many folks. So going back to my father, he lived independently. He was, took care of the house. We owned the house, co-owned my house, and then he fell about 2 months ago. Now, we have a lot of stairs in our house. I'm always worried, you know, whether he's gonna fall. So he actually fell from the smallest stairwell, which is only 4 steps going from our front door down to the sidewalk. And he was actually, you know, my friend was there picking him up to take him to a dinner to meet me, and she recorded everything, and my dad was like, you know what, I'm fine, I'm gonna go back inside, I'm just gonna lie down. And my girlfriend said, no, I'm gonna call 911. So he ended up having brain bleed, which turned into, you know, AFib of his heart, which then his lungs filled up with liquid, and then it started affecting his kidneys. And throughout the entire time, my dad was speaking sometimes coherently, sometimes not, but he was always aware. He always knew. He knew our names. He knew, you know, if he pointed to things, he knew what it was. He could sometimes say it. But even until the very end, he just wanted to go home. Go home. That's it. And so I had to talk to the hospital. I said, I need to get my dad home. It's clear that he is not going to get home. And she said, well, I can recommend Kaiser hospice care. And I said, okay, how long will it take? And she said, well, I can sign the documents today, probably tomorrow. And I said, great, let's do it. So it took 2 days to do it, and then we finally got him home, and then 36 hours he passed over the rainbow. But it was based on his own will, which was great. You know, we all signed an advance directive. My parents, my husband, myself, we discussed it. My mother, who 7 years ago, she fell and went into a coma. She was not going to get up. We had 3 brain surgeons say that she was never going to wake up. But it's really hard, right? And so my dad kept asking for more experts. I said, Dad, we have 3 different brain surgeons. We all signed this directive. He goes, well, I can't do it. And I said, okay, but, you know, that's Mom's decision. And now with my dad, I'm really close to my dad, and he was still fighting every day to live. Very hard, right, to make that decision. But in the end, he made his own decision. So I was getting off the phone in the parking lot with a friend, and she's like, well, what do I have to do? You know, what about my trust? I don't want my kids to fight. And I said, did you sign an advance directive? She said, no, what's that form? So I ChatGPT'd it all for her and sent it to her. And I said, you can decide everything you want, right? How your funeral is going to be. Do you want a funeral? You know, do you want to be buried or cremated? Do you want certain people not to come to your funeral? Right? do you want to write in that, you know, if your kids fight or contest the will, they're not going to get anything, right? You all know, like we all know, right? Human nature, we know who is who, and so that was kind of right outside the parking lot. Now people are calling me, you know, asking me for my advice, and so make sure you have an updated trust. And she said, oh, I haven't updated in a while, and I said, that is so important. Or you have to have a disclaimer, right, a catch-all, that, you know, whatever it is, you know, you're gonna divide it this way, or what it's gonna be. And so she was like really thankful. But it is such a tough decision, and she's had to make that decision, you know, with her parents, and they couldn't make it. She's got an aunt for, 3 or 4 years now. She's just been in a coma, right? I mean, that's not quality of living, but she never signed an advance directive. So what are you gonna do, right? And with modern technology, you can keep someone alive for like 10 years, like that. I mean, great for modern technology, but you know, we need to manage our own life. Okay, so that was my dad. I took 4 days off. I had a great support network, friends and family that came and helped me do everything. And I am at peace, and I'm able to go back to work today and, you know, really talk about this experience. We have a great healthcare system in California, okay? I was surprised. We called San Francisco General, the attention that he got from all the doctors, nurses, amazing. Then they moved him to Kaiser for 2 weeks. He seemed to be getting better. Then we moved him down to San Jose Valley Medical Center for rehab. And then his medical condition started. His body just, you know, couldn't keep up with his mind. And so he was in intensive care until he came home. but the care, the level of care was just really, really superb. In my office, I also fund all the children's hospitals. And thanks to all of you, we passed 3 different state initiatives allocating more money to children's hospitals. So we are, bar none, the best children's hospital system in the world. And our UC or CSU community college systems, right? They used to be free, and now they're getting more expensive. And I'm running for lieutenant governor next year because I am turned out as treasurer, and I will be sitting on the UC CSU community college systems. And if you have any good ideas of collaborations, programs, things that are working that we need to try, please let me know. And the CSUs, state universities, is really what I've been worried about. The UCs, you know, they're the UCs. Everybody's fighting to go to UCs. They have good endowments. They have funders who want their names on the buildings. They are entering into public-private partnerships so that if that company takes off, they are also generating revenue. So I don't worry about the UCs as much. Community colleges are part of the K through 14 system under Prop 98. So if we're doing well in our budget, they get all funded, the K through 12, including the community colleges. It's really the state universities that are like the middle redhead stepchild, right? They're not under Prop 98. They don't have those fancy, you know, endowments and donors, people who are like, yeah, right? Some of them are doing okay because they have good sports teams like Sacramento State, Chico State here. They're doing pretty good, but, you know, we have 23 systems. I'm not sure about, you know, how viable they're gonna be without some sort of creative thinking. So there is a bill right now, Christopher Cabaldon. It is SB 640, the high school to college bill, which would essentially allow all high school students who have a certain GPA to be automatically admitted into one of the state universities. That's going to help keep our CSU systems, you know, viable. So that is, again, Christopher Cabaldon, SB 640. And I know you all follow bills, sponsor bills, support bills, but I think that's also an important bill. Another bill I've been sponsoring is Cecilia Aguirre Curry's bill, and the last one was AB 65, the Pregnancy Leave for Educators Act. How many of you are teachers? Right? How many of you tried to get pregnant to have kids in the summertime so you didn't have to take vacation or sick leave? Right? I mean, who can plan like that? Right? And then if there are complications, well, and it goes, you know, past the summer, let's say you're lucky enough, past the summer, well, then it starts coming out of pocket, because then you have to pay for substitutes, right? How is that possible when the most important jobs in our society get paid the least amount of money? Okay? Teachers. We're fighting. We could not get the first bill out. Now we have a second bill trying to get out. We still can't get it out. How about caregivers, home health, in-house, in-home support service workers? They still don't get retirement, they don't get sick pay, they don't get sick leave, and they're the ones that are going to be responsible for taking care of the most vulnerable, the older people, the people with disabilities, yet they get paid the lowest amount of money. We're paying our caregivers, 24/7 caregivers, for 2 days, $35 an hour. $35. Like McDonald's is paying $35 an hour. And these are the people that are taking care of the most vulnerable. So, anyway, I think you all understand where my heart is as well, right? Trying to level the playing field. What else, Rochelle, should I touch upon? Because I've kind of gone off topic a number of times now. So treasurer. Okay, treasurer. I am one of 8 constitutional officers. That means there's 8 of us elected statewide. So you are all our boss. You know, people always say, oh, the governor's your boss. I'm like, no, the governor's not my boss. I mean, if he doesn't like me, he may withhold some funding to my office, but you are all my boss. So I am the banker. I take in the money, I invest the money, I spend the money, and then my colleague, Malia Cohen, I don't know if you met Malia Cohen, she is the controller. We call ourselves the goddesses of fortune. I take in the money, she spends the money, right? So she is the CFO. So she issues all the checks. How many of you are CalPERS, CalSTRS, for example, right? Her name is on the check. She also can audit anything, any agency, even including us. And she does the unclaimed property. So property that maybe you didn't know you had a bank account, and now the state has the bank account, has your money, you can go and claim it from the state. So that's kind of the difference, but the two of us sit on all the boards together, as well as the governor's office, Department of Finance. So us three are kind of the main controlling bodies in the state when it comes to the money. And then, of course, according to Alexia, I fund and finance everything: schools, hospital, roads, public transportation. Anyone who needs money, please come to me. So, what I have been doing through the pandemic, a lot of people didn't know that we received $28 billion from the federal government for all sorts of relief, and a lot of people didn't know about it until the money was gone. And so I started to put together these resource guides so that we can prepare people that it's coming. You know, sign up for this website, get prepared, so when the money is there, you're ready. And we still continue it today. It is updated. We have some copies on the back, but it is front and center on my website, www.treasure.ca.gov. The boxes will say resource guides, and you can go into that box, as well as fire recovery resource guides. And I know that that's been an issue here. So because of the Palisades and the Eaton fires, I also created a fire resource recovery guide. And then the newest one, because everyone's asking about education, 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 here is our new, hot off the press, resources for higher education. So it gives, it lists different, federal student aid, Pell grants, for example, Promise grants, Cal grants. That's only page 1. Page 2 has law enforcement dependence grants, DREAM Act service incentives, Chafee grants for foster youth. It also has loan programs, so there's a lot of loan programs, and so we give you all the loan programs, the QR codes, as well as the links. And then what I love the free scholarships, right? Everyone can use a little bit of money, so we have at least 2 pages of scholarships where people can go. Some of them are government related, some of them are private, but free money that our young people can, or older people who are going to college, going back to college, can use to access the resources. So we have a lot of resources. Well, we used to have a lot of resources at the federal level, not so much. We still have some at the state and the local levels, but we don't do a good job of letting the public know because there's no money for us to do marketing and outreach. So we just put it on the website and we expect you all to know you're supposed to go to this website magically. And so we do a lot of social media promoting it as well as trying to get out in the community to share the resources.
First question, what do you see as the most significant threat facing the California economy?
Okay, so our general fund is highly dependent on personal income tax, corporation tax, and sales taxes. Those 3 make up 90% of our general fund. So what does that mean? It means when California is doing well, like tech companies, Hollywood, tourism, right? We're generating a lot of personal income tax. People can spend the money because they feel good, like during the Great Recession, people didn't have jobs. Companies were going bankrupt and nobody could spend money. And that's why we face the $46 billion deficit. However, COVID, our first year of COVID, we had a $46 billion surplus. Why is that? Well, all the tech companies had to come up with a new technology, right? The Google Meets and what's the one we were using? Zoom, right? So they were hiring, they were still offering stock options and bonuses and merging and acquiring. So income taxes were high, corporation taxes were high. And then we were all locked in. We all had to stay here. So we spent all of our money here in the state, right? We still ordered off of the internet companies. We still bought trucks and cars and boats. I mean, so our sales taxes were really high. So first year of COVID, $46 billion surplus. The second year, $96 billion surplus. Record surpluses. Then, what happened after, we weren't locked down anymore? Everybody started traveling, right? Leaving the state. The tech companies, we didn't need to be on Zoom anymore, so they all started laying off. But now, the next unicorn, I say right now, instead of the state bear, the brown bear, we should have a unicorn as our state state animal. So someone creatively took the bear and put a unicorn horn on it and say, this is what Ms. Ma is saying. But we hope that some of these AI companies are going to be unicorns and that they're going to, generate extensive corporation tax, personal income taxes. So that's kind of our hope in terms of our budget. Where do I think we need to focus on? Our healthcare system, right? Medi-Cal. We're not getting the reimbursements for our healthcare. Many people, insurance is very expensive or they don't have insurance, so they're using the emergency room. And the emergency room costs money to these healthcare companies. So that is definitely a concern of mine, because as we all get older, we want to make sure when we need accessible, affordable health care that it is going to be there and that we're not waiting until the last minute to get the help that we need. Obviously, education. Education to some of our higher education facilities in the research areas is going to be really devastating. It takes years to come up with a new drug. And if all of a sudden we stop funding it, what's going to happen to all their trials? Someone stops, it gets thrown away, and then when we decide to refund research and development, we have to start all over again. That's why many of us are really concerned about the federal cuts to education. Obviously, our public safety, our fire, we normally get reimbursed from FEMA for many of these, natural disasters, fires, floods, and that is no longer available. And so that means the state has to come up, with this funds to try to get people, back into their homes. Insurance, you all know the insurance issue, the FAIR plan, that we have had so many issues that it's getting more and more costly, and the insurance companies, right, want to raise their rates. We don't want them to raise the rates, so now they're just not doing business in our state. And so I hope the next insurance commissioner is going to think about how to creatively bring back the insurance companies and bring down the rates, because not all of us can afford to be in the FAIR plan. So I think those are probably the top 3 issues that come to mind regarding what is happening right now in our economy.
So, okay, quick question went out to the person who said what programs are being contemplated to lower home fire insurance. Did she answer your question for you? You have a bit of a nod? Okay, perfect. Love it, you're ahead of things. Okay, next question, 8640, automatic CSU admission.
Yep.
Question is, what happens if all the campuses, the CSU campuses, get full?
Great. Awesome. Like, I was out at Bakersfield, for example, and Bakersfield, their dorms are only 80% full, right? Yet you go to Sac State, and Chancellor Wood needs 5,000 more housing units, right? Housing is very expensive. And so a lot of these campuses, they have excess land. They do want to build more housing, but they also need to make sure that they have people, you know, in those beds. And that's kind of the conundrum as well. Our office did our first state housing project at Sonoma, was it Sonoma State University? We did our first student housing project there, 364 beds, super successful. Because the students that come there, they can't find housing on campus. Housing around campus is very expensive in Marin, Marin, Sonoma area, and then they're not gonna go, and that's why they have declining enrollments, is because of housing. So we need to do a better job of managing our housing, and then also, you know, trying to figure out our CSU systems. I got some ideas about that, but you know, I think this bill is, you know, a good start to talk about and raise the awareness of, you know, the fiscal situation for the CSUs.
So we've got a couple of questions here that I'm going to blend because they kind of flow one into the other. California sends more money to the federal through taxes, and then it gets back, which happens. It says, first question is, many states are takers. How do we get more federal dollars back? And following on that one, what is your feeling about getting the money that we have going to the feds now, and instead giving more of it to our farmers?
So we have looked into this because people have asked us, you know, we are a donor state, and is there a way to withhold maybe our taxes? Well, you all pay the taxes, the companies pay the taxes. If we withhold the taxes, who's gonna pay the penalties and interest for withholding the taxes, right? So I looked into it, that is not a possibility. What we need to do is we need to figure out how we're going to better sustain ourselves at the state, right? How do we bring more investment dollars here? Lots of companies that maybe are in Texas, they don't like the climate in Texas. They want, you know, the talent here, they want the weather here, they want the diversity here. They want to come to California. But California has challenges, right? Lots more regulations, higher fees, bureaucracies. So we in government need to do a better job. We need to, you know, take a look at how long it really does take to give a permit out to a company who wants to build a warehouse, for example. In Texas, it could be 6 months. California, it could take 2 years, right? And we need to do a better job. So that is one of the areas as an accountant that I'm focused on, is trying to bring more investments here, pair up these companies, their industries, what they want to do with certain counties, cities that want that type of business, that are easier to do business, that have capacity to do business, right? And in your community, you all know what you all welcome and what you don't like here, right? And so the more I travel around, the more I understand what it is. I was just in Nevada City, for example, at kind of an economic development workshop, and they want more housing. They want more money for startups, for nonprofit arts organizations, right? They do have land where they're doing pilot projects. So knowing that, companies that want to do certain things, I know I can send them over to Nevada City. Santa Clara, City of Santa Clara, they have the most amount of tech companies. They need more energy for battery storage, for data centers. They are desperate, you know, to keep the NVIDIAs of the world, Googles in their community. So all the people in those clean energy, battery storage, tech, I'm sending them down to Santa Clara. Adelanto, anyone know where Adelanto is? No. Adelanto, high desert, okay? They are very aggressive in terms of building out. They kind of were, one of the stepchildren, the two cities right around them are doing well, and then you get there and it's like, this open land. And I said, what happened here? Well, sometimes it's government, right? Sometimes it's leadership, and now they've got their act together and they are really growing. You can get permitted to do business in Adelanto in 6 months. So certain companies I send up to Adelanto. So that's what I do, and that's what we need, is to make sure that we are growing the pie instead of fighting over the crumbs. And you all, you're not gonna put a warehouse here, so don't try, Let's send them to places that does want it, like the Inland Empire, right? Advanced manufacturing. I don't know, maybe you do want advanced manufacturing here, but I know Sacramento certainly wants those facilities, so we're sending them to Sacramento. Anyway, that's part of my job here.
Okay, so we're going to switch over to children for a second. We've got, first question is, does California help fund Shriners and other no-cost hospitals and hospital systems for children? And then how do you think California could support childcare?
Let's see. California, we gave out 17 distressed hospital loans, zero-interest loans, mostly to rural community hospitals. And remind me, they're government or nonprofits. So the for-profits don't get a lot of assistance from the government, even though they're doing a great job, but they also face the same struggles. So somehow I think we have to rethink our model. Even though you're a nonprofit, some of the nonprofits are making a lot of money, and the for-profits are doing the same job but not making a lot of money. So I think we have to maybe change our model to who they're serving, in the community, what type of services, whether you're for-profit or nonprofit. Especially in the healthcare world, it's getting harder and harder for both systems to really make it without some sort of subsidy. Let's see, the other one was childcare. I know Governor Newsom wants free TK for all, so that's all 4-year-olds have access to TK free. I'm not sure how that is working right now, because you have to build the infrastructure, to have these young 4-year-olds before they go to elementary school. So I'm not up to date on what's happening with our child care system.
Okay. So we're going to move back over to some financing. So we've got 2 questions that are associated. How have federal budget cuts affected this California state budget, and the most significant impact from the current federal administrative policies? So both of those are related to the feds, the actions they've taken.
Well, I think you all read the news, right? Watch the news, read the news. I mean, it is really devastating what's happening. Under the past president, California did really well, because we had a lot of people that were recruited in leadership positions, so we got a lot more, maybe a disproportionate amount of funding, for FEMA, for research, for education, for healthcare, and especially green new technology like hydrogen. The ARCHES program, we were supposed to get $2 billion to develop more hydrogen, and that money now has gone away. So.
Let's see, we've got, what do you see as the best ways for the state to partner with special districts and other local governments in California to provide necessary services to all communities?
Yeah. So special districts are super important. What I like about them is, number one, they are mostly regionally based. And so they have to be collaborative. Many elected officials from different cities, neighboring cities, get together, develop their priorities, and then fight, or march down in one, voice, in one direction. The problem, with some of our communities, they're not working together regionally. Nevada City was talking about cannibalizing. The nonprofits are cannibalizing each other because they're all fighting for money instead of working regionally to share resources, to get the money flowing so that there is a better distribution of assets. There's not duplication of services and programs, right? And so that's what the special districts do. They are a separate governmental arm that is set aside to handle water issues or airports or other, other areas where there's a regional collaboration. Let's put it that way.
So we're going to go with one. We've got at least 3 questions focusing on her future campaigns. We're going to hold this to the end. But this one we've got is there are states that are fiscally managing their situation better than California. Minnesota is one. How can California tap on the expertise of these other states and what they're doing?
Yeah, I'm always focused on what other states are doing, and usually California is leading, but in certain areas California is behind. I'll give you one example, veterans. California is one of the only states that taxes veteran retirement benefits. So what happens to all the people serving in the military in California, as soon as they retire, they move to another state. They would stay if their benefits weren't taxed. So there were 2 bills going through the legislature. I think the governor put it in his budget that up to $20,000 of veteran military retirement benefits will not be taxed here in California. I think it should be 100%. These men and women put their lives, on the line for our democracy, our freedoms, all the things that we enjoy here, and we should also be giving back and thanking them for their service. So that's one example of California falling behind. We're leading on climate change, clearly. The governor created an executive order to have all new passenger vehicles all electric by 2035. Not sure whether that's going to happen, but at least he set the bar high. And because of that, we have more electric vehicle companies here in California, more battery storage, more everything related to, even manufacturers coming to manufacture here in California. So that's an example of us leading. But I'm always conscious. I work with all the state treasurers. They're always doing things better. We're trying to learn. I'll give you an example, infrastructure revolving loan fund. I think it's Illinois that created a fund because infrastructure is really expensive. And we can't build more housing without infrastructure. Local governments used to pay for the roads and the cables and everything that goes into it, and then after 2008, they said, sorry, developers, you have to pay for the infrastructure. And that makes it cost prohibitive. These developers cannot, what is it? Sorry, my mind is, lots of questions. Cannot, sell their properties to the market anymore if they have to pay for all the infrastructure. So that's part of the reason why we're not building as quickly as we could or should or have in the past, is because of this infrastructure. So I've been trying to set up an infrastructure revolving loan fund to allow the developers access to low interest or zero interest loans. Once they build their first tract, they'll pay it back, and then other people can use it to build housing. But trying to solve these problems is not easy. It requires sometimes 2/3 of the legislature. Sometimes we have money, sometimes we don't have money. But when we do have money, we should be doing things to move forward, advance the priorities for California. And sometimes we go back and we fund the things like, pensions, prepaying pensions, very important, right? Giving money to our UC-CSU system, very, very important. But then housing, these new programs aren't getting funded.
we're going to move to an initiative. What's the potential financial impact of if Prop 50 passes or doesn't pass? Do you have any idea from that?
I think the financial impact for Prop 50, since it is a special election, and for some of us it is the only thing on the ballot, the last I heard was 282 million. I'm not sure. Now, that's the cost. Then on the other side is the principle, right? Texas wants to redistrict to take away more Democratic seats. And so we, as California, our governor is trying to, fight fire with fire to increase the amount of Democrats that we have here in California. But it would overturn the proposition in 2010 where we voted to have an independent redistricting commission. Those are individuals in a community that's not actively involved in government per se, and they go around, create the maps, do public hearings, take input, and then they decide what the maps are going to be. The problem before that proposition passed was political people decided the lines. So if they did not like you, they would make the line like in your front yard so that you had to go and run in another district where you could not win. And that's why the proposition passed is, people didn't feel like it was fair or transparent, the system of, redistricting every 10 years. So, am I clear? Like, there's a fiscal impact and then there's a political impact. So, what is more important to you when you go to the ballot box? Yes.
So, we have been told that Treasurer Ma is running out of time with us, so we are going to transition to this last question. So we have several people who want to know about your running for Lieutenant Governor. What are you thinking you want to do as Lieutenant Governor, and what's happening with that?
Yeah. So the Lieutenant Governor, first and foremost, must be ready and able to take over and be governor in case anything happens to the governor or the governor leaves the state. So that's the first and foremost. I think I'm qualified. I'm still a real estate CPA. I still do my 80 hours of continuing education to keep my 3 letters after my name. Number 1, because my father always warns me that if this doesn't work out, I can still go back and announce it. Number 2, I think it's a good idea. It keeps me up to date in terms of what's happening in the tax world. And number 3, I think it helps when you're running for a financial position to be the first woman CPA. There's only been one other CPA ever since 1849, and it was a gentleman, back in like the 1930s. So I'm only really the second CPA that's run for office. Then I served as an aide to Senator John Burton, where I was out in the community doing Medi-Cal, workers' comp, franchise tax board, unemployment insurance, all the fun things. And I think they hired me because, I didn't know any better, and I'm an accountant, so I geeked out on it. Then I got elected to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors for 4 years. I got elected to the State Assembly for 6 years as a majority whip and speaker pro tem. Then I got elected to the State Board of Equalization as your friendly tax collector. Then as state treasurer 2018, re-elected in 2022. So I haven't lost a race yet. Lieutenant Governor will be my 5th elected position. I think it's important that we have qualified people, experienced people, especially right now serving in government. So I will sit on 5 boards: UC, CSU, community college boards, the Coastal Commission, and state lands. And these are not boards or areas where I have done extensive work, so I really look forward to expanding my portfolio. And then the the Lieutenant Governor is supposed to be heading the Economic Development Council. I don't believe one size fits all. I'm not gonna have one Economic Development Council. I'm probably gonna have 58 county Economic Development Councils and then splitting it up to different industries. And then this governor delegated the international affairs to the Lieutenant Governor, Eleni Kounalakis. And so I'm hoping to continue to do international relations. Since we are the 4th largest economy in the world, we should be doing more, global people-to-people exchange, student-to-student exchanges to really continue to grow our economy. So I look forward to June and November of next year, and if you all continue to support me, then I will continue to serve. And I do have a certificate of recognition to the Auburn branch in honor of your 76 years of outstanding leadership and service, your commitment to promoting accessibility and stability to the residents of Auburn. Thank you for your unwavering dedication to fostering economic opportunity and advancing professional development and excellence for the next generation of women across the state. Congratulations. Hey, sometimes they cut it off, I'm like, okay, well,
Okay, so before she goes, we actually have a thank you for you. We're sorry to hear about your loss. We appreciate so much that you came out to join us. In light of all that, thank you so much, and this is our thank you to you for you being here, for sharing so much. So